Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by Good Marketing and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So today on Michigan Reimagined, we're talking about legacy, leadership, and impact. Joining me is Elaine Hardy, the chair of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commission of Mid-Michigan. The commission is preparing for its 41st annual day of celebration, one of the largest MLK Day events in the country. But its work extends far beyond a single day. So Elaine is here to share with us how the commission continues to carry forward Dr. King's vision through education, youth leadership, and community action. Thanks for coming and joining me today, Elaine.
It is my pleasure to be here, Chris. I'm happy to be here and excited to talk about our annual day of celebration and the work of the commission.
Wonderful. So talk a little bit about what is the commission, what's the mission, and how was it started?
So our commission in Lansing formed over 4 decades ago, about 46 years ago, actually, with the purpose of pushing for federal legislation for a National King holiday. And we joined communities across the country to do that.
Sure.
So after King's assassination in 1968, it was Michigan Representative John Conyers who first put forth a bill to make a National King holiday. And it took decades until November of 1983, when Ronald Reagan signed that bill into law, for it to happen. But it was a concerted effort across the country by multiple people, primarily led by Conyers and Dr. King's widow, Coretta Scott King.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So our commission got started around 1982 with the vision of Michael Murphy, who was a Michigan state representative, and other community leaders, along with the mayors of Lansing and East Lansing. And it was really to work and put their voice and effort behind the work to push for federal legislation. Our cities enacted legislation 1 year in advance of the federal government. So we have been in our community, in our Mid-Michigan region, celebrating MLK Day longer than the nation has recognized it as a holiday. Our commission never disbanded. So after the legislation was passed, many commissions felt like that their work was done. Our community, for whatever wisdom they had at that time, decided that they were going to continue the work. They were going to continue to lift up an annual day of celebration and to do work in the community to continue Dr. King's legacy and help build the beloved community. So here we are, some 40 some odd years later, with the nation's one of the nation's continuously operating commissions, longest operating commissions, and hosting the largest luncheon event in the nation honoring Dr. King right here in Mid-Michigan in Lansing.
So you talk about not disbanding and keeping the message going. And granted, there have been a lot of great people through history, and getting the federal recognition of his day is, hero's effort. What do you think made Lansing decide that needed to continue on outside of just the day?
So, this is one of my favorite things to talk about this community. Because if you show up on the third Monday in January at the Lansing Center, you're going to see people from all walks of life, people from every nationality, every faith, people who are newly arrived citizens to this country. You'll see students, you'll see old and young folk, and they are all there around a common goal of lifting up Dr. King's legacy. And every year that I have an opportunity to look out at those 1,600 or so people assembled there, or be in the space, the energy in that room and the community that's built there is palpable. And it's almost something that you have to be in the space to experience, because I tried then to describe it, but that's what happened. And I think that it is that spirit of community that we see represented there on that Monday that continued this commission. We are a volunteer group of folk. Mm-hmm. So, there's 20 of our community heroes that work year-round to present our annual day of celebration and other work that we do in the commission. But they're a dedicated group of people who are from our community. And I just really believe that it is just the spirit in this Lansing community that has kept the commission going and has made our annual day of celebration what it is.
So it takes a troop of volunteers to put together, you said, a 1,600 person breakfast once a year.
We keep pushing the Lansing Center to go more, right? We want to bust the walls out of the place. So however we can reach capacity. And we were on track right before the pandemic to reach about 1,800 folks in
wow.
that. Yeah. It's incredible, right?
Yes.
And so we are still going to continue to push the Lansing Center to burst at the seams so that we can continue to bring more people into the day of celebration.
Wonderful. But under new management, so you might need to talk to the new squad that's running that place because they might have a new vision with you.
We've been in communication.
Good for you. Outside of the day, what else does the commission do throughout the year?
So, the annual day, it doesn't get planned in one day, right?
No
So,
kidding, yeah.
if you've had any experience with with our annual day of celebration, we typically bring nationally renowned and in some cases internationally renowned speakers to the community. What we have worked towards over the last decade was to bring actual foot soldiers who were engaged in the civil rights movement to the Lansing community. So we have had such prominent movement workers like Dr. Diane Nash and the wife of Medgar Evers, Merle Evers, and the wife of Ralph Abernathy, Juanita Abernathy. We've had Elijah Cummings and original freedom writers, Hank Thomas. And so we have really worked to bring the legacy of the workers of the civil rights movement into our community and have really leaned into that over the last 10 years. That takes a little work, right?
Yeah, sure.
It takes a little work. And then the orchestration of the event. I mean, if you've been, you know that we commission our own orchestra. So each year we have the Music of the Dream Orchestra that it is conducted by a local conductor. We reach out to our schools across mid-Michigan to engage students in our essay and scholarship contest. And we really try to showcase those individuals on that day of celebration. And then, of course, we have a bevy of statewide and other elected officials who are there to join us in that day.
Right.
So that takes a little orchestration. So when we're not doing that, we host an annual art contest, because our belief is that if we can continue to have people think about Dr. King and his legacy, if we can continue to have remind people of the audacity of his dream and his belief in the beloved community, and have young people do it, we know that we have an opportunity then to move his dream forward. So we host the annual essay contest. And then one of my favorite events is our 828 Day. And that 828 Day marks the day that Dr. King gave his iconic I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. So those are some of the things that we do as events throughout the year. And then, of course, we also try to support community organizations that are strongly entrenched in youth development.
Okay. Right on. I want to talk about youth development after I give a nod to our friends at Wagoner Financial. Whether you're just starting out, planning for retirement, or anywhere between, Wagoner is here to help you make smart financial decisions. They offer comprehensive, customized planning, from investment strategies and tax solutions to insurance, accounting, and estate planning. Wagoner is dedicated to supporting you, your family, your business, and your future. Using their unique team approach and maximizing each member's specializations, they ensure that there is someone who will have an answer to your question and is ready to help. Schedule a consultation by visiting wagoner-financial.com or give them a call at 517-853-3367. Talk a little bit about the youth involvement. Why is it so important to really engage the youth?
Well, the youth were the foundation of the civil rights movement. We always kind of look to the folks that we learn about in history, Dr. King and Rosa Parks and Medgar Evers, and we don't really get an opportunity to hear so much about the actual foot soldiers in the movement. So the average age of the persons that you saw crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday or sitting and integrating those lunch counters, they were 18 years old, right? And so when we look at the kind of the nexus, the folk who began our modern civil rights era, the Little Rock Nine, they're 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. So when they integrated Little Rock Central High School, they were children, but they inspired a whole world to the work of equality, and that is one of the things that we really want to make sure that we don't lose in kind of our evolution away from the civil rights, the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. That it was the youth, it was the children. In Alabama, they're referred to as the Children's Marches. They were the ones that stood against Bull Connor and police sanctioned violence in Kelly Ingram Park. When you saw hoses turned on people, they were kids. And so when we have an opportunity to engage them in thought around our theme, to introduce them to the ideals of nonviolence, of social justice, then I believe it's our duty to do so as a commission. But it also is a opportunity for us to see the next Dr. King develop, right? See the next Rosa Parks.
Yep. And just inspire, right?
Yeah,
to tell the stories. That's fantastic. So let's talk about the details of the 26th celebration. It's clearly coming up. We're recording this in very early January of 2026. Talk about this year's event.
So this year's event, again, I know people will not be disappointed when they show up on the third Monday of January into the Lansing Center. It is going to be full of celebration, full of music. We will hear from our statewide elected officials. We are so honored and excited about our keynote speaker, who we'll hopefully be able to announce really super soon. You will have music from our Music of the Dream Symphony Orchestra. We actually have a command performance from the Detroit Youth Choir.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you know last year, but we really did bring the fire at the Lansing Center. We had an interruption of our program last year because we had a little technical difficulty. There was a fire, and so we didn't really get a chance to have the full community experience the Grammy-nominated Detroit Youth Choir. So they're going to be back. And we also have commissioned an orchestra that are made up of musicians from throughout our region that I'm so excited to be able to perform for us as well.
And this is a special year, is it not?
This is a special year. So this is the 40th year that the nation is going to celebrate the Dr. King holiday. So Ronald Reagan signed the legislation, as I mentioned, into law in November of 1983, and it wasn't until 3 years later that the federal government actually recognized the holiday.
Speed of government.
Speed of government. But we were early adopters, so we have a couple of years on the federal government, but this is the 40th year that our nation will celebrate Dr. King's holiday, and I think it's fitting. It's our 250th birthday celebration as a nation, and so I think if we are going to celebrate our freedom from tyranny, we have to celebrate all of our freedoms, right?
That's exactly right. Yep. 1986 is 40 years ago. How's that possible?
I know. I don't know. I don't know. I have a friend that says that you only need to go to 50 and then you can turn around and come back. So
perfect. All right. Good. All right. I'm back down to 42. Or 40. Yeah, 3, I guess. And so it's Monday, January 19th. Monday, January 19th,
11 o'clock a.m. at the Lansing Center.
Wonderful. And how do you get tickets? Is there a website that you go to?
Absolutely. Please visit us on our website at the MLKMidMichigan.com. There you can learn about how to get tickets, but you also can get some really cool information about the commission. You can see past photos of luncheons. There's probably some really amazing footage of some of the events, some of the speakers that we were able to have come. So visit the website at MLKMidMichigan.com and you can get tickets there.
Fantastic. All right. And there's a theme this year?
Theme, yes. So we typically will manage our theme around something that Dr. King said or some other civil rights leader. Mm-hmm. We can't totally give Dr. King credit for this theme because it is also found in a beautifully written ancient text called the Bible.
Heard of that one.
You heard of it? It is from the book of Amos, and it was also a quote of Dr. King's. And our theme this year is "Until justice rolls down like water and righteousness as a mighty stream." And we just thought this year the conversations around justice for people throughout the world and in America just needed to be amplified. And so that was the reason why the commission chose and voted on that theme. And hopefully it'll dovetail nicely into a speaker that we're having.
Absolutely. Good. I'm on pins and needles waiting to hear who the speaker is. That's fantastic. Before we get too far in, I want to thank our friends at the Michigan State University Research Foundation. This episode is brought to you by the Michigan Rise Pre-Seed Fund, providing early stage funding for Michigan-based startups. Since 2020, Michigan Rise has helped high-tech, high-growth startup companies achieve commercial and technical milestones through capital formation strategies, talent development, and customer acquisition tactics. With financing options for every stage of the entrepreneurial journey, Michigan Rise significantly increases the impact of new ideas and research. Visit www.michiganrise.com to discover how Michigan Rise can help fuel your startup's growth. Michigan Rise is supported by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and the Michigan State University Research Foundation. All right. So the keynote speaker, I know we're not allowed to ask about, but we're going to pay attention. And
you can ask, but I won't tell.
Will it be put up on the website eventually, or is that something you guys are going to broadcast out there on socials or something like that?
We will make an announcement.
I suspect the ticket will be worth it anyway.
It will,
regardless of who it is.
Do you know, I believe that because it has happened to us every year, that even before we announce a speaker, we are scrambling trying to make certain that we have tickets available for folks.
Yep.
I think that this event for our community has become the place to be on MLK Day.
Right.
And my belief is that they trust us, that whoever is going to come and deliver our keynote address is going to bring something that's needed in our community. Right on. Makes a lot of sense. So how did you get involved? How did you become chair? And what does it mean to you to be part of this organization? Wow, that's so the interesting thing is when I first started with the City of East Lansing, as I shared, the City of East Lansing and the City of Lansing were a part of the foundation of the MLK Commission. So the commission was at that point a kind of a quasi-government organization. It really kind of didn't exist in the nonprofit space. And it wasn't until the Bonero administration that we had conversations about what was best moving forward, since we weren't going to go anywhere as a commission, what was best for us. And we elected at that time, probably around 2008, 2010, to become a nonprofit. And so I was kind of voluntold that this was going to be part of my job responsibility with the City of East Lansing. And that's been 23 years ago now. So I became a commissioner, and I have no idea how long I've served as chair. But I can tell you, sometimes it's hard for me to put into words what it means to me. You know, I grew up, when I was born, I had no agency over the vote for me, right? So when I was born, my right to vote was not protected by Voting Rights Act. And I was a student of the movement. And I would often, as a kid, say, I wish I could have been in Selma. I wish I could have been in Alabama. I wish I could have been a freedom rider. And so to have the opportunity to work with this commission to help this nation remember the beauty of the civil rights movement. And I think that it gets lost on us because we see the appalling violent images. We see the struggle. We see the pain from segregation and state-sanctioned violence against Black and brown folks. And we don't want to remember that as a nation because it's hard. But the most beautiful thing about that movement is that our entire nation rose up and said, no, this is not who we want to be. This is not the expression of freedom that we are. And so having the ability to be in an organization and work with such a group of amazing people to continue to remind America of her highest ideals, of her promise to each of us as citizens, I'm just honored every single day. I'm honored. 2026, this event, this year in particular, maybe has a little bit more horsepower behind it because of the
I really don't want to go down this road, but to everything you just said, it seems like we could all use a dose of this maybe a little bit more now than in other years.
Absolutely. And, I think that if we pay attention to the blueprint that all of our leaders have left us to help build a better America, whether they were Black folk or white folk or people that had a lived experience that made them recognize how deeply connected we all are.
Right.
There's really no separation between us. And Dr. King talked about us being tied together, right? I think it's important that we don't always try to smooth out the rough edges of our shared history, because then we can remind folks that there was some pain point, there was some destruction that happened that we don't want to go back to. And so, yeah, you are right. I think that 2026 is a time where we are in a state of reflection, and that we have to remind ourselves that justice for everyone needs to mean justice for everyone.
Understood. Is that the key takeaway you're hoping that the audience in 2026 gets, or are there other things you hope will resonate with the audience?
So I'm always hopeful that when people leave out of the Lansing Center on the third Monday, that they have celebrated with us, but they are charged to go out and make a difference in our community. I mean, because that's what it's all about. It's not really just a day to reflect on the man and his dream, because really the audacity of his dream is that it was for all of us. I talk to people all the time about how, that day he stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, nothing that he dreamed about was true. It was an audacious dream. I mean, we were enshrouded in the Jim Crow South. There was no such thing as a Voting Rights Act or a Civil Rights Act at that time. There was no mention, or even marriage equality wasn't even thought of. And here he is standing on the steps saying, this is a dream I have. And all of us, reflectively, when we hear the words, I have a dream, we think of him.
Oh, yeah.
And there are parts of that speech that come to our mind. Oftentimes it's the not to be judged by the content, by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. So when we think about what our message moving forward is, what we want to have happen when you leave there is just to remember that, right? To remember that we have a shared destiny, that we want you to be inspired to care for the people that maybe not look like you or live next to you, and to do it with a heart of love and a belief that we can have the dream that he so audaciously talked about on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
Right on. Well, as we wrap up, I want to make sure we get to how people can learn more. You mentioned the website and you mentioned the tickets and the events. Are there other ways that people can get involved? Do you need volunteers? Is there, ways that we can help you serve? So
I love the ask about how people can be involved. We want you to show up on the day of celebration, and we want you to then show up for your community. Part of the work of building the beloved community is that all of our hands can be put to work to do it. And that's looking at organizations that make your heart beat, things that you care about, whether it's the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club or the food bank, but to really just, when you are in that space, to remember that all of those things do make a difference in our community, and that we have to all work together to continue to fight for our freedoms and for justice for every one of us.
Fantastic. Couldn't end on a better note than that. I've been really pleased to be joined by Elaine Hardy. She is the chair of the commission, let me get this all put back together, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commission of Mid-Michigan, and has been for years and years. And it's the 40th anniversary of the federal, and you've been involved for a lot of that. So congratulations on everything you do and everything you bring to the community to keep his legacy moving along.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, and all the best to you. So it is the MLKfoundation.com.
It's the MLKmidmichigan.com.
MLKmidmichigan.com. Go there, get your tickets, stay involved, any way that you can. Thank you very much for joining me here today.
Thank you.
All right. And I'd love to give a final shout out to all my loyal sponsors. We've got Wagoner Financial, Good Marketing, Triterra Environmental, Keller Williams Advantage and Team, Michigan Rise, Kirk Byron State Farm, and the attorneys at Foster Swift. All great people doing excellent work. And if you found the show as a one-off, I want to remind you to follow and subscribe to Michigan Reimagined pretty much everywhere you find your podcasts. This is Chris Buck signing off for Michigan Reimagined.